Good evening, welcome. I'm John. I'm a bookseller at Literati Bookstore in downtown Ann Arbor, Michigan. We're so pleased this evening to welcome Ashwini Bhasi to celebrate her debut poetry collection, Musth, and be joined by guest readers Jasmine and Joumana Altallal. Just a quick webinar overview for our attendees. The chat is closed this evening, but you can keep the chat window open as I'll be sharing links to purchase books from Literati throughout the event. We also have signed copies of Musth that are in the store now. So if you want to pop in, they are on display in our poetry section. The Q&A is accessible to you as well. So you can feel free to submit any questions you have using that Q&A. I'll read a selection of those questions at the conclusion of the conversation. And live transcription is available to you using the CC icon on your toolbar if you need live transcription. And if you're watching us later on YouTube, there are always links to purchase the book directly below me in the description. You can also subscribe to our YouTube channel to be kept up to date with all of our events once they become available there. And as a reminder, you can shop for more books at literatibookstore.com to have shipped to your home anywhere in the United States. And if you live in Southeast Michigan or the Ann Arbor area, of course, our doors are open to the public for in-store shopping. But most of all, we'd just like to thank you for your attendance this evening, or this morning, or this afternoon, depending on where and when in the world you may be joining us from. So without further ado, I'll introduce our first reader, Joumana Altallal is an Iraqi Lebanese writer, researcher, and artist who was born in Baghdad and grew up in Charlottesville, Virginia. She received her MFA in poetry at the University of Michigan's Helen Zell Writers Program. Her recent work has appeared in the Rumpus Muslim Magazine, Michigan Quarterly Review, and Glass, a journal of poetry. She's a recipient of fellowships from Breadloaf Environmental Writers Conference, Napa Valley Writers Conference, and the Radius for Arab American Writers. Please join me in welcoming Joumana Altallal.
Thank you so much, John, and thank you, Ashwini, for inviting me. I'm so excited to be celebrating you and your book. Thank you all for joining. I'm going to read a series of poems that are part of my collection that I'm working on currently. Many of these poems are in the voice of victims of femicide in Iraq who were killed during various moments throughout this year. And who I've been grieving ever since. This first poem is called Afterlife Diptych, and it's in the voice of Riham Yaqub. 1. And the morning after we woke up, wedged in shrubs of myrtle, our half legs flapping like windsocks from mounted poles, the face of a pupilless God behind us. God, we began, no longer starved with the urgency of the living, God of water, of electricity, of rooftop sleep in summer's unend, what remains there in what we have left of Basra's glutted sky? Why did you not come to us as you come to others in sleep? In the gentle pull of the first light, we hobble to stand, our bodies, ours, and wanting. 2. I was a marbled teal bobbing in the unnamed water. When I was neither dead nor alive, I preferred it to this sterile heaven, to this revolving concert of faces. Nearby, Fuad Salim hums, "Don't come to us, don't." The neighbor's son scrapes rosin from bumbar trees, builds kites of palm spines and thread. What spooled blessings, what terror in the small lives we no longer live. Everything here, in the voice of Tara Faris. Delirious, I am laid to rest in the clavicle of a bird whose remaining body is a ghost. In the next life, death has the sense not to creep around me, breathe my air. Bright, bright this new world, and ugly, To have been taught nothing remains of my body and still my limbs, what to make of no one watching, no rush, nothing to return to but a mildewed grief. Here, there is space and nothing will fill it. Some days I dream no one is watching. I dream I am small, standing beneath the rim of a graying sky, my supine body a willow leaf carried in the quivering wind. All I wanted was to be left alone, to drive a beautiful car, to veer to the edge and quiver against a beloved's body. Instead, I am rosined into the earth, brittle as bone. Someone's look what happens when you look what happens. How many have died in my name and inherited death? I touch their rosined bodies now, their old loves, the amber that fills them. There is everything here, and no one is watching. On returning. Since no one else will, I carry my own corpse through the valley of musk mallows, sweeping with each step their flowering discs, the curled bracts. My departure leaves behind no questions. Someone whispers, it was only a matter of time. At night, I return to find myself stepped over and left to be found. What else did you expect would happen to a woman like that? I flood the sleeping streets, delight in the night's inattention. What pleasure in remaining unobserved when the night is just night, not danger, not hawk-eyed. I leave knowing nothing will change and nothing will stay in its place. This next poem, Tear Gas Monologue, is also from a series of poems that are an ode to the Tishreen movement in Iraq. Tear Gas Monologue. I count exactly 2 seconds between the spiral of smoke and your curled body. It takes the same time to say, wait, as it takes to fog ahead. I come as if from nowhere, birthed in the cup of someone's palm, alive briefly, and then flung around a building past which I could not see. I was tricked. And so I count the thin threads of hair lining your upper lip, the dimpled sun against your cheek, each eyelash quivering, then still as you look at me. Millimeters from your skin, I pray to be unflung. I have 2 more poems that I'm going to read. This next one is a poem that I wrote after visiting Iraq in 2019 for the first time since my family was forced to leave. This is also one of the only poems that I was able to write when I returned. It's called On Staying. My father's old friend insists he must show us his room as we linger, hours before our flight at his door. It is night in Najaf, and the eager ask is small. My father cannot refuse. We say we will visit quickly. He welcomes us in like kings, rushes to light a candle, 3 flashlights when the circuit breaker ticks, as it often does, and twists the room dark. The first home I enter with a bookshelf, blue and tucked under the stairs. Beside it, a china cabinet crammed with tarnished trinkets, brass vessels, a pile of corroded coins. My eyes adjust to each dust-filled corner, afraid to touch anything. I ask, where do you get these from? He extends a short copper vase to me like an offering. When people leave behind their homes, I collect what's left. He walks us to his room. Villages of yellowed books line the shelves. I don't go out anymore. I would rather be here than anywhere in the world. A small bed pushed against the wall. When my father tells him I write in English, he opens a drawer stuffed with German textbooks and hands them to me. I pretend to read. And my last poem, Enemy Kitchen, which is written after the same art exhibit by Michael Rakowitz. May we wrap into Noor bread our enemies, swirl them in date molasses, scoops of sesame paste. May we fill their bellies, stuff them, in fact, like leaves of chard, with onions and rice and fat tomatoes, crack open only the juiciest pomegranate picked from Ain Tamr, and bloody their fingers with its flesh, its sickening, acid sweet. Even when dead, we know it is bad luck cutting down a fig tree, so we learn to leave it. Hunch under its blackened shoots, may we, like the wingless wasp, dig in the belly of other figs' tunnels, so that our enemies may still escape to carry what's left of the pollen and grow. Thank you so much, everyone.
Thank you, Joumana. That's lovely. Our next reader is Jasmine On. Jasmine On comes from the Midwest. Her work can be found in Black Warrior Review's Boyfriend Village, Michigan Quarterly Review, Nat Brute, Waxwing, and Best New Poets 2020, among others. She's author of 2 chapbooks of poetry, naming The No Name Woman and Monkey Was Here, and poetry editor at Agape Editions. Currently, she is pursuing a PhD in English and Women's and Gender Studies at the University of Michigan. Please welcome Jasmine On.
Hi, thank you so much, John, for that introduction and for organizing all of us. Joumana, thank you so much for your poems. It was so great to hear you read. And Ashwini, I'm so excited to celebrate you and your book and really happy that I get to join in this event. So yay, thank you for having me. I will share just a couple poems. I'll also share my screen while I do so. Um, because one thing about Ashwini is that in addition to this book, she's also the creator of a lot of really amazing visual poems and art pieces. And over last summer, I reached out and we had a sort of workshop sharing session where I shared some of these visual poems with her. And her feedback was super helpful. So I thought I would read a couple of those today. Brief heads up, I'm going to be sharing my screen with some anti-Asian racist language on it and some US state government jargon, because this is an erasure series. Okay, here we go. Hopefully everyone can see this. So this is the first poem. Elegy for Alliance. Be it enacted by the Senate and the House of Representatives of the United States of America in Congress assembled that, in the midst of this alarming surge in anti-Asian hate crimes, the Attorney General may make grants to eligible entities to assist in conducting law enforcement activities or crime reduction programs to prevent, address, or otherwise respond to hate crime. The 117th Congress of the United States of America, COVID Hate Crimes Act. I run as sun shuns us, as virus ruins us versus us versus us, a rich carcass, such cash, rich versus rain, a rash inch, rush in vain, a virus scans us, iris in crass canvas, I ran ravish, hush chains, such sins. Action. Be it enacted by the Senate and the House of Representatives of the United States in Congress assembled. Congress finds the following. The incident of violence known as hate crimes or hate motivated by bias poses a serious national problem. The term hate crime means an act described in Section 245, 247, or 249 of Title 18 the United States Code, or in Section 901 of the Civil Rights Act of 1968, 42 USC 3631. 117th Congress of the United States of America, COVID Hate Crimes Act of 2021. I as Karen, as Ern, such is ruin, ravish, crisis, archaic sun, scar and iris incurs in vain, arch, arc, arch, aria, I vanish. And then I'll end on this last erasure poem. Epithalamion for the yellow woman, for myself. Be it enacted by the Senate and the House of Representatives of the United States of America in Congress assembled, that in determining the immigration of any subject of China, Japan, or any Oriental country to the United States, it shall be unlawful for aliens of the following classes to immigrate into the United States, namely, women imported for the purpose of prostitution. 43rd Congress of the United States of America, Page Act of 1875. I crush arnica in an ash can, hunch chin in his hair, sun a saturine, sick scar, us a Karen, a rich rush, sans rain, sans ruin. I crush arnica in an ash can, hunch chin in his hair, sun a saturine, sick scar, us a Karen, a rich rush, sans rain, sans ruin. Thanks everyone. Super excited to hear Ashwini read.
Thank you, Jasmine. Those were incredible. If we were in the bookstore, I think I'd take this opportunity to ask everyone to give another round of applause for our guest readers, Jasmine and Joumana Altallal, for sharing their incredible work this evening. But now on to tonight's featured reader. Ashwini Bhasi is a bioinformatician from Kerala, India, who is interested in exploring the molecular genetics of shame, trauma, and chronic pain through poetry and visual art. Her work can be found in Michigan Quarterly Review, Rhino, Quelly, Hayden's Ferry Review, Frontier Poetry, The Offing, Hobart, Indianapolis Review, and elsewhere. She is the recipient of the William J. Shaw Memorial Poetry Prize from Dunes Review and was a finalist for the Rita Dove Poetry Award from the Center for Women Writers. Musth, which won the 2020 Cutbank Chapbook Contest, is her first poetry collection. I'll remind you, as I forgot to do before I was introducing Ashwini, that you can ask any questions you'd like using the Q&A feature. Just want to remind you that that's available to you, and I'll ask those questions at the conclusion of the reading. But please help me welcome into your living rooms or onto your screens, Ashwini Bhasi.
Thank you so much, John. As I had a lot of internet issues, so I have to switch to the iPhone. I just want to confirm that you can hear me clearly. Okay, good. Okay, so first of all, thank you so much, Literati, for hosting this reading. You've been so supportive with local authors and so supportive with my release of Musth, and especially John for all the wonderful, amazing, supportive ways you've been working with me, especially with having to postpone my reading. So thank you so much. And Joumana and Jasmine, I I'm so happy that you were reading with me today, and I love your poems. I love your work, and it feels so wonderful to share our poems together, personally, but also here with all the others, so they know that the kind of threads that bind the three of us together. So thank you. So I will move on to reading some poems from Musth. So I'll start with a couple of poems that explore the reasons why it sometimes feels unsafe to be in a South Asian woman's body. Sewage. My body carries blueprints of open sewage drains from my hometown. This one curving from pelvis to left breast, etched while I hurried down St. Teresa Street with no sidewalk. 10 minutes late to biology class, past dredged up sludge left by sanitation workers on the roadside. Dead rats, human waste mixed with broken plastic, stench turned on full volume, baking in the sun, ignored by flies, ignored by garbage trucks. Once I saw a placenta wrapped in banana leaf, an unopened cup of noodles, a half-eaten sparrow, and a Christmas card, all in the same black heap left by the city on the sidewalk, the sludge washing back in the rains, and the drains clogged again. And again, we never complained, just held our noses, chose to blame those who were stupid enough to step on it. And on that day, late for class, with my left foot in barter sandal almost squishing into it, I had to choose sludge foot or clean foot. And I chose clean foot and wasn't run over by car, bus, or auto rickshaw when I jumped onto the road, but I landed right into the hands of a man who was waiting cat, watching mouse to make the wrong move. In his paw, my left breast, kneaded and crushed like a lemon, he was juicing the pain of it. Before I could push him away, his polyester shirt and uncreased pants, ironed by his wife, this 43-year-old father of two on his way to a government clerk job had muttered in my ear and walked away. You always ask, you dark sluts, you daughters of sludge with your bouncing breasts. You always ask, so here I give it. Next poem is Dowry. About 20 women die every day in India from harassment over dowry payments. And this is just a reported number. The actual number of deaths due to this are much, much higher. Dowry. 120 pavans of gold to weigh you down. A kilo of yellow gleaming like a tiger's eye or a decayed tooth that stood ready to be plucked from grandmother's mouth. Grandmother didn't survive, nor your mother, the third-degree burns of gas stoves that explode when dowry payments are delayed. You have an MBA from QSAT, and in this kasavasari, flaming red with forests and palaces woven in with golden thread, you look just like your mother. In fact, with 20 bangles on each arm and jumbled necklaces slithering down your neck to nestle in that 8-handfold tuck of your sari, you look even better. Next, I'm going to read a poem which I like to call a bioinformatics poem because it uses this bioinformatics. I'm calling it bioinformatics because it uses the protein sequence of the hormone oxytocin. And I wish I could show it on screen. The plan was to show it on screen, but I can't right now. But basically, it's an acrostic poem which uses, each stanza uses the letter of the amino acid. So oxytocin has got 9 amino acids, and each amino acid is represented by a letter. So each stanza of the poem starts with an amino acid letter. Oxytocin. Ironically, researchers find the cuddle hormone plays a role in sparking violent behavior towards one's romantic partner. Pacific Standard. Count back until it tingles on tongue. Cellular memory of the incident, crushed like a carapace of a silent insect, the stranded sequence of consequence. You're too shy, he said. Wear that love on your hips smeared with the sindoor blood of belonging. Thali thadi on chest, I ran down the rock hill barefoot in the dark. Did I tear? Did I tear? I know every retelling is orthogonal, edges kneeling at right angles, compliant covariants threading my tongue with tridents to appease a demigod. Keep still, smear holy ash to stop the bleeding. Quilted questions. Did you dance in front of the deity? Writhe in a yantra of powder colors with thighs splayed too wide to contain a mudslide? Were you Radha or Sita, a Rasa Leela? No one asked me why, only how. How could you? How did you? I answered with my amygdala cracked open like a beach almond on their altar stone, placed a mirror image of the blatant bulge of a conch flower near their faces. Let it rub against their version of the story, labia open, the fuchsia caressing their open palms and not the other way around. Root of shame squared. Yes, he fucked me without warning. I wasn't a temple 3 days after the sin of my blood had dried. I was just a jagged stone braced for the thrash of soiled laundry. Prove it wrong. He slid the skin off a tamarind twig. Slick lashes landed like white-footed ghost ants on scurrying on skin. Welt after welt, he said, you wanted it, you wantoned it. Listen, rivers swallow riverbanks without warning, but a mukuti knows how to thrive underwater. The red of flooded silt is strong in me. One day it will find a home downriver, wield a goldsmith hammer and mold this marital necklace into a teardrop earring for my unborn daughter. Go to the origin of replication, viscous slurry of events, intercellular retellings dead knotted to a mildewed underskirt around my waist. His footsteps in the dark, the potholes of my mouth, torn palu of old wedding sari underfoot, I keep running. The rough zari licks my flayed underbelly, telling me I must reverse transcribe the sequence of silencing. Next, I will read a poem dedicated to Jisha. Jisha's rape and murder happened in 2006 in my home state of Kerala. Jisha was a Dalit woman, and Dalits are considered to be the lowest rung of the Indian caste system and are severely discriminated against. This poem starts with an epigraph. Duck for Jisha. Epigraph. According to the National Crime Records Bureau, a crime is committed against a Dalit by a non-Dalit every 16 minutes. Arundhati Roy. I was thinking about you while driving to work this morning. Post-mortem report of 36 wounds, bite marks deep in your bones and screams unheard on a busy street. Evidence lost or collected too late. They called you Nirbhaya of the South, but everything about you was different except the iron rod he used. No night vigils on the street for you, lighted candles, or songs of desperate anger for another India's daughter. I was thinking about you when the duck hit the car. I know too many witnesses ready to say it was a duck's fault flying so low across a busy street. That duck hit car, car did not hit duck. Leaf falls on thorn, thorn falls on leaf, same damage to leaf. Did they hammer this into us before we bled for the first time, or was it after? No blood was splattered on my windshield, slick with rain. Maybe feathers and flesh lay blended with wilted cherry blossoms that fell from my neighbor's tree. Did I hear duck bones crushed on impact? Maybe it was too soft a sound to penetrate glass. You were landless, living next to a public canal. The news report said your single mother built your one-room home too close to the road. Were you studying for your law exam that morning? Did you make matta rice after rinsing red water through the sieve of your fingers? Use palm fronds soaked in kerosene for the wood stove? Did you crush coconut with chilies on a grinding stone? Did you eat before it happened? How long did it take for you to know no one was coming, to know what was happening to you would be heard with ears closed like neighbors' doors, steel frames braced against conscious knowing? I was thinking of you when I hit the duck. I cursed and swerved, impatiently squirted wiper fluid to check for damage. And the truth is, the relief from my unsplintered wall of glass pulled me so quickly away from the glob of petals of flesh wiped clean from my view. And the silhouette on the street getting smaller and smaller in my mirror, was it dead or alive? I did not turn back. I was already late for my 9 o'clock meeting. Next, I'm going to read a poem about my relationship with my body. Spoiler alert, my body and I don't get along well together. My body is somebody. My body is somebody, not part of me. She keeps playing kabaddi without including me. Body throws me down on the playground and laughs with them who laugh at me. My body is a gaping hole. She swallows things whole and never uses teeth to chew food, but chews on me. Body and I, we run marathons together, but we always stay on separate lanes. When we finish last, body laughs her ass off. Body keeps making jokes I cannot understand. Example, you and me, we are a cream cookie, so filthy and clean simultaneously. Body decides when I can A, zoom like a hummingbird, B, run like an elephant, C, stomp like a rhino, D, move like an anaconda. And she invariably chooses D. Body tells me good girls don't come easy. She makes a cage out of ribs, keeps my breath and breast small. Body never feeds me, but she needs to be fed continuously. Cookie, kulfi, jaggery, cake, samosa, biryani, dosha, idli, pizza, rice with dal, more rice and ghee. And then she claims that she's still empty. Body some nights body talks to me differently. She'd say she wants to be a part of me, but I cannot listen to her mocking nonsense. Like at 3 a.m. yesterday when she woke me up, limbs stuck mid-spasm and bones grinding pain down into sizable portions. She was crying. Even with her belly distended with chips, beer, and fear, she was trying to hold on to me. And when I slipped out of her sweaty heat, body joked into the distance between us. Hey, do you know why we slither, not swim? We ate our own legs to be slim. You can't, and I can't raid. So bitch, why do we keep fighting like this? Body then laughed at my silence, pulled herself out of bed, crawled to the refrigerator, and swallowed more cake. So I'm going to move to the second section where I just want to read some poems from Musth that relate to the duality of shame and desire, and sadly how inseparably embedded they are in the bodies of so many South Asian women. These poems explore the constant struggle we are in to reclaim our sexual desire as our own and exorcise the multi-generational messaging that's been hammered into us that our bodies don't belong to ourselves. You dream of centipedes. You dream of centipedes, their brief spark of phosphorescence when crushed underfoot. In an endless corridor with windows framing the blue-black waters of Varkala, you thirst for gravel and rain, ache for a tearing apart followed by a riotous ascent to the skies. His voice, the way he pulls your hair, your many-legged wants of him. Dissever each pincer, place them on your tongue, let poison be an appetizer. He turns into mist when you reach for him, and your body tries to course correct its trajectory. Thighs pressed, tailbone tucked, sacrum, a drawbridge still opening to the memory of his touch. You reach a courtyard filled with centipedes writhing in rain-soaked soil, and you know you're back at the mouth of the dream. Soon, crows descend. You watch stunned the recurrence of such glorious feeding. When they fly away bellies full, you wait for them to return in the dark through the corridor of your throat to roost in the cracked urn of your pelvis with its coating of blue-black soot. Next, I'm going to read the title poem of this chapbook, Musth. Musth, adjective, in rut, lustful, drunken, euphoric, mad. You ask me if I've ever touched an elephant. My fingers traced their gray skin like parchment to read each crease like an old Vedic script with a plot so intricate it altered with movement, soft and loose like you and me and the melting ice sliding off a slanted Michigan roof. Chained elephant with gangrenous foot, calmly eating coconut fronds in a parking lot. Wild elephant in Musth, breaking electric poles like incense sticks. Do you want to hear the story of an obedient elephant adorned with a deity's jewels, and the drunken mahout who tore the elephant's ear with a bull hook to make her stand still for hours on a melting tar road? The elephant liked music and swayed her palm leaf ears in rhythm with the temple drums to forget what was happening to her feet. Did you read the latest issue of the American Genetics Journal that says humans are closer to bonobos than an African elephant is to an Indian elephant? Why are you silent? The elephant weighed 4,000 kilos and a mahout less than 100. Is there a balancing equation of surrender to one kind of pain to survive another? We are not bonobos locked in this office room. The elephant isn't here. Your eyes are dark olives and the brine soaks through my skin. Ask me if the elephant was weak, and before I answer, press the dulled wedding band into your finger harder. I mirror your actions faithfully. I used to believe hair plucked from an elephant's tail would bring good luck. So I placed it in a gold ring, wore it every day, and with palms folded in prayer, I tried to cleanse myself in a holy river that flowed past my parents' house. You want to know if the elephant escaped. The unseen doesn't exist until seen by another, and there is safety in the silence of sloughed feet stilled from running. I can tell you the mahout died. I cannot tell you if the elephant had anything to do with that. My fingers cannot trace that entire story. There are parts I've lost like sunlight in green river water when I left my country for yours. We can keep it clean, wipe the must from the surface, leave the rest untouched in a controlled self-burn under this conference table. Honey, I keep slipping on black ice as I walk from Dyack to Miller and back to Kerrytown in the dark. Here you stood in a grocery store line last spring, holding a Granny Smith apple and a can of cat food. Here we sat by the tulip window, drinking rooibos tea, joking about free will in a social jungle where ants remain ants and worker bees die without ever tasting the honey they make. A mallard is nesting on cracked eggs in my front yard. I watch her every day through partially open blinds. I followed the honey worker bee, and here I am, all yellowed and yielding, still holding on to the swarm of words you left on that blue post-it note. 42 days, and the mallard is still nesting. My life has lost the mowed lawn and security yard sign it had before. You visit every night, each dream precise, and am left stained in the morning light, a brass colander verdigressed with emptiness to the brim. I go back to that night you were standing in a grocery store line, staring like I was brightly wrapped candy at the counter. Dark chocolate lychee you wanted so badly to swirl on your tongue but couldn't. I unwrapped myself for you when you pulled with weak, trembling fingers, and we molted, iridescent across species lines. Shame was a shell I thought we shared. It was fused to my skin. But when it came to save yourself, how quickly you shed it, worker bee. Sliding its full weight onto me, you turned into a tiny ant again. I'm going to end with two poems. And these two last poems are a dialogue or a conversation with the self, meaning the speaker is addressing herself in the poems and trying to love, cajole, plead, or command the self to transform. Rebirth. Love, when he asked me why, every time he entered me, I left you to hover on the surface of an abandoned body made more of water than blood. I was still dead in the dregs of an amber journey, falling through the open thighs of a sky that knows how to save me on re-entry. I landed on the back of a dune bear cub sleeping in a Michigan lake, a hemisphere away from where I was born. And I tried to walk the red road paved on water by the setting sun. I was still Sati, charred and lost like Sindoor in all that saltless blue, until he pulled me back into you. Now I'm tangled like a 9-yard sari, frayed from yearning for more unraveling. And love, I would never ask how or why, only when. When would a tongue transform me? When would the dual current of surrender and plunder fill me so thoroughly for rebirth as Kali? I was shorter than a table leg when I first saw you, a sliver of delight floating beneath my belly button. Soon you were buried like a bad well, shallow with silt, and I watched hinged at my hip in their splintered mirror. Love, I know I'm here too late, and you're afraid to bear water through fire. Don't you know he's just a mirrored door, and you are always where I'm going? Doubt the evidence of my full return, my eagerness to coalesce, but hold me true to this jagged-throated surrender, this jumbled ache of teeth and tongue, braced and hungry for you to flood me again. I'm going to end with the poem, How to Turn the Venom into Amritam. And the word Amritam in Indian mythology means nectar of the gods. It's an elixir of immortality retrieved by churning the cosmic ocean using the serpent Vasuki as a rope. How to turn the venom into Amritam. Tonight, Go back to that load-shedding night with the windows swollen with the moisture of monsoons. Let the hinges of your thighs creak open, spill light when you taste yourself on his tongue. Shame is a rusty latch that crumbles on touch. You don't know it yet. Go back to that power cut night, your fingers on the windowsill, tracing the shape of a hump-nosed pit viper coiled on a dowel in the dark. Remember it unfurling between thumb and index finger, no longer an ordinary rain-soaked ball. Now slurp the slickness of such dangerous survival. Stop lying in half-light, rubbing a misnomer harder. Stop molting this into a frail poem that keeps looking over its dirty shoulder. These voices, their well-known verdict you strain to hear, are imprints, crackling skin of a dead viper crushed between hinges, flesh long gone. They lied. When they pressed you between pages like a conch flower, you weren't desiccated to save us. Let go of this urge to violently wipe swollen skin clean. Our hunger slithers without venom, without words. You want to leave it untouched. A silver bowl of milk, prayers to a snake goddess, a temple opening. You keep leaving. Come, swallow it whole. Feel it in your throat. I promise you, we won't die. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you again to all of our readers. I wish we could have you in the store. These are the kinds of events that I miss most, but it's so, it makes all of the stuff that we do worth it to have these kinds of events. And so I can't thank all of our readers tonight. Supporting our local authors is sort of what we exist to do. And so being able to continue to do that even through all of the strangeness of the world is something we appreciate so much. And as I said to you before we went live, Ashwini, congrats on Musth. And to our viewers, you can purchase a signed copy in the store. And you can order it at the link in the chat. We don't have any questions in the Q&A. We've got a couple more minutes, so I'll leave a moment in case anyone wants to ask a question, but I'll just say once again, hope you're all at home raucously applauding for Ashwini Bhasi and for our other readers this evening, Joumana Altallal, Jasmine on, and thank you for being here and joining us tonight. And again, if you're watching us later on YouTube, there are links to purchase books in the description below me. We have signed copies of Musth available in the store. I'm happy to wait a few more moments, Ashwini, if we want to wait for questions, or perhaps see if any of your fellow readers have questions for you, but maybe I'll just ask a question. If there's anything we should be on the lookout for if you're already at work on your next collection.
Yes, actually, yes. So I've also started writing some nonfiction. So I'm writing some essays exploring pain and, chronic pain and how pain is felt in the body and how difficult it is, how untranslatable it is. I'm also writing poems regarding my experiences with the medical system, dealing with the medical condition I have, and which is how women's healthcare is so badly, it's not supported well at all, and it's outrageous. So I'm writing some poems about that. So maybe that would become my next poetry collection.
I would be so strikingly necessary, and something I'm certainly looking forward to that. Thank you. We have a viewer who writes in, Catherine writes, no questions, just awe, incredibly deep and rich. As I suspected, sometimes our Q&As are a bit silent simply because of how powerful the work is, which is certainly the case tonight for all of our readers. But we've reached the top of the hour when we normally wrap things up, so I'll give folks just a fleeting few seconds a chance to submit any of their questions. But I just want to take this opportunity again to thank all of our readers this evening for joining us tonight on At Home with Literati. It's our pleasure to have you and to support your work. And we're so grateful to be able to share it with our community. And to all of our viewers, thank you so much for joining us. We look forward to seeing you at the next event. And I think we'll take that opportunity to sign off. Thanks again, Ashwini. Congrats.
Thank you, John.
And thank you, Jasmine and Joumana, for joining us as well. And hope to have you all in the store in the not too distant future for another reading when we could all gather again. Take care. I'll have a great weekend.
You too. Thank you.
Bye all.